My perspective is that we're just going to match GDP and consumption growth. And there aren't any giant like booms on the horizon. And games has been so used to like a giant boom happening every 5 years that like we've come to expect it, but we might just be holding steady for now.
Don't games usually do good during recessions? Don't we usually get a bump during recessions? Because
So
everybody's sad.
I've heard that, but I'm pretty sure there was just like a super strong correlation with the Wii's success during the 2008 financial crisis. Like, I'm pretty sure it was just that.
Eric Seifert has
Maybe
a
it'll
really
be the
good
Switch
piece on
too.
that. The thing that Eric Seifert points out is, first of all, we haven't had a free-to-play recession really since 2008, right? 2008 free-to-play didn't really exist. So we don't really know how free-to-play is going to do in a recession. So when you compare the things we say about consoles, I find that hard. The thing is, everyone seems to want gaming to be both a luxury good, a normal good, and inferior good, which means that we're going to grow no matter what. And I think that's not how this works. That's not how the income elasticity of demand works.
I'll say it's such a wide umbrella at this point that it is a inferior good, normal good, and luxury good. Just some sector of it is. And so even if games as an aggregate doesn't grow, someone is doing all right. But then at that point, it's like, when we say games industry, is that it's like saying image industry, right? Or like video industry. Okay, but that means so many different things, like video advertisement, TV shows, movies, YouTube. And
Hasn't console growth been pretty flat? And the only real growth that we've seen is actually from mobile. It's like
that's flatlining, right? It's the fears that
exactly. That's where crypto's going to come in. It's going to take the rest of the
I guess for listeners, just to summarize the bleak outlook for gaming, there's no big growth vector in sight, right? AR, VR, nothing there. Crypto, not much there. What else was there? UGC, most of those things have flopped. There was all these venture-backed live service games, all those like X, Riot, Blizzard, Epic people. Most of those have flopped. So yeah, there's no like gold, and there's no like golden sunset in sight. And then on top of that, developing countries are getting so much better at making their own games. We see stuff like Marvel Rivals coming out of China and eating part of the US market. Whereas in the past, it was like the developed economies were eating the emerging economies markets. And so that is, I'm sure China Games is doing, but China's problems. But that, from the perspective of a Western developer, that is also hurting us as the game industry.
It's interesting. I actually wrote a blog about my trip to India with my wife for a wedding. And I was just like, this is not the place to extract value right now in the games industry. I understand why the in-app purchasing is so low in those countries. And then, Phil, I think you were talking about like developing countries on Link or something similar. The only way we're going to grow is if the world economy grows, which I said, I think in 2 podcast episodes ago, and everyone laughed at me, but I feel like now everyone's, oh, geez. I wanted to ask real quick, what was Gabe Layden's sobering take on Web3? Has he just priced in is his pitch finally like a reasonable, rational, does it have a rational P/E ratio? Is it no longer insane?
I didn't see his talk on Sunday where a lot of this was communicated secondhand. I think everyone knows what Web3 is, and now it's up to everyone else to figure out how they're going to build around that. And I think he's made it a conscious decision to not buy into the bullshit with crypto. He knows it's not sustainable. He knows that we need more sustainable, long run, durable, and dependable things. And a lot of what's happening in crypto does not reflect that. And I think willing to point that out, which I love, pointing out that there's a lot of wash trading on Ethereum.
3 years too late.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But I think, okay, if you're pitching to a Web2 publisher and you're like, hey, we're going to grow your game by 20 to 30%, we're not going to replace any of the Web2 stuff, and it's just about expanding the audience with this feature, that becomes more of a persuasive pitch, right? If I'm a Scopely looking at Marvel Strike Force or even Star Trek Fleet Command, there might be something there.
I don't want to turn this into the Web3 debate, but I'm skeptical. Who wants this thing?
Everybody has come to the same realization.
What?
Like
I'm always saying that. I had to toe the company line. I'm not toewing it anymore.
Fair enough.
Dude, in my talk, I was saying so much shit about Riot. Yeah.
I've talked to a number of Web3 founders whose companies have recently gone under. And they all have like very similar sobering takes. It's like, oh shit, we did this the wrong way. It was just like everything was priced before there was a product. And I think that you're just going to get a bunch of misprices when you do that. But yeah, you know what's funny about Web3 is like the only companies that are still around are the ones with tokens, ironically. It's like all these guys were like, we're not going to do a token because we're going to do it the right way. And like now they're out of business. And it's, oh, geez. Don't know what to think of that.
Cash out while it's hot. What do they say? Capture your gain, take your gains. That's the finance thing.
Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Never heard this? Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Who is a pig and who is a hog?
Let's just don't be too greedy.
A hog, just a fat pig?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a big pig.
Oh.
Yeah. But anyway, okay, so Web3 is dead. Gaming is also suffering, though. hey, you know what? Web3 just got a bad break. They got into things right when the industry was cooling on. The argument I'm hearing in crypto right now is that the reason that crypto is suffering so much is because the Fed was making non-risk assets more attractive, and it killed crypto. Crypto's a risky assets, which is probably the most creative and obscene, like trying to get out of jail card I've ever heard. It's
Can
like
I
Apple
can I
being like, "Fuck you, Fed! You fucked us over because our share price is more volatile than a treasury."